Good evening, everybody, and welcome here to race 4 of the 6th season of the Dark Horse Racing Series presented by Troy Lee Designs. As here tonight, we are at the Magic Mile. This is New Hampshire Motor Speedway, and we've seen since the start of the season the tracks have gotten progressively smaller. Here tonight, it's going to be one of the smaller configurations of the season before we eventually get to a couple of short tracks. So we'll see if we get some short track racing IndyCar style here tonight. Seth Cole being joined here in the booth by Matthew Rodriguez. And Matt, great to have you back. We've seen this track last couple of seasons bring about some interesting finishes and almost had a couple of surprise winners along the way.
Interesting finishes is one of the highest points on that I would bring out. Obviously, there was a very controversial finish last season. I know at least one or two drivers that'd like to have another shot at that, but with going into this season, books are open. Anyone can really take this race. I don't really have a favorite picked out in the field today, believe it or not.
Yeah, we ended up seeing a lot of varying speeds. Some drivers doing some short runs, some qualifying runs during practice, some other drivers with the long runs. One thing that I kind of noticed that seemed to be something everybody was doing, I don't know if they were just forcing the issue a little bit harder than they would, but I saw a lot of guys spinning off a turn too. Not a lot of banking to be able to lean on here at New Hampshire.
Yeah, realistically, with it being a very flat track, what really needs to be on the top of your mind tonight is tire conservation. We cannot be burning up this right front. We need to take care of our tires for later in the run. But also, this is where these guys get mad props because you still have to maintain that speed, can maintain that pace, and pass here at a track that is very notorious to pass at.
As we take a look at our 40 Raceware starting lineup, the 63 and the 64 in numerical order there on the front row. AJ Hobson, his first pole of the season. Andrew Wood, we've seen him in 2 of the last 3 starts be very competitive up at the front. He hasn't quite had the finishes to reflect just how good a race car he's had, but he has the front row. You'll notice that pretty deep in the field, as a matter of fact, didn't even put down a qualifying time. 2-time winner, back-to-back winner, Craig Forsyth, starting all the way back in the 12th position. I don't know. Is track position going to be really that important here tonight?
I mean, at least in my experience, Forsyth got hit on the pace lap. It was Luis Nunez. Looks like he got a little bit loose just trying to warm up the tires. Ended up going right into the side pod of Forsyth.
Forsyth continuing on. There's Nunez in the 14. See any visible damage on either one of those race cars, but then again, looks can be deceiving. Haven't even taken the green flag, and already a couple of drivers with some issues.
That's it. I saw Craig's microphone pop up, and I could tell he probably had some choice words. I'm not going to repeat those, but definitely that kind of shows you how hard it is to get off these corners.
Yeah, the drama's already started as the green flag now in the air here at New Hampshire. And again, we mentioned the fact the track's a mile in length, as Forsyth already making it 3 wide back there, but the track's a mile in length. We kind of consider
car track. Around Andrew Wood. Oh, he's in the middle of the track.
Oh, look out. That's Joe McAdory. Had to take evasive maneuvers to the left, and I don't know if he got the steel guardrail or not, but everybody else, for the most part, avoided Andrew Wood.
Yep. Andrew Wood got a little bit of the steel guardrail on the right rear. Doesn't look like it got affected way too much. Looks like it's really just pushed up in the middle of the spoiler. But man, early problems. Andrew Wood, man,
long, did it?
Andrew Wood cannot catch a break.
Let's take a look and see what happened. Mentioned the fact that turn 2 seemed to be a real trouble spot. Oh, he's going to have some contact, it looks like, from the former champion Rick Ravon.
You know, I think that's kind of a thing where they were really both battling. I could easily say Ravon could have given him a little bit more room. Andrew could have stayed up a little bit higher. But kind of end of the matter is it is lap 1, turn 1. So kind of the big thing. And Gap Whack definitely did play a little bit of a toll into that one. Unfortunately, looks like Andrew just got a little bit of a bad bump on the exit of 2 that ended up knocking his nose into the fence, taking the whole wing with it. And at that point, he was upside down and at the mercy of everyone else. Great avoidance.
Let's see if we can go on board here with Rick Ravon and take a look at that gap whack of which you're talking about. Definitely looked like, from the camera shot we had before, like there was some space. Oh yeah, you can definitely see there is a little bit of space there between the 1 and the 64, and unfortunately, Andrew Wood on the receiving end of the damage. And boy, we talk about the fact that it's very early on, didn't even complete the first lap. That's a faster pair for Andrew Wood. He's got to run now
I mean,
the
it's a faster
remaining.
pair and a toe.
Yeah, exactly. 2 laps lost. He's, I believe, just now. No, actually, I thought he was coming off of pit road. He's still sitting on pit road, so he may lose a 3rd lap.
So, Seth, let me kind of bring up a proposition to you. We've had some hard feelings the past couple weeks, at least kind of going all the way back to Pocono, going on to Auto Club, and I can't really vouch for what happened at Kentucky, but at least I know some of the sentiments with some of the drivers about how they are raced. And, us drivers are a pretentious bunch. Um, with how we're raced and how we expect to be raced. I mean, we're 4 races into the season. How do you take instance like this as a driver this early in the season, knowing you're trying to gain points, and how do you shake stuff off like this?
Well, it's very interesting you bring that up because, you talk about what we've had for the precursor 3 races, some hurt feelings, maybe some rivalries along the way, and then we head here to New Hampshire, who, if you remember back 2 seasons ago, it was a great battle that was going on between Jim Brooks trying to get his first career win and the eventual champion of the season, Robert Maleska III, and there was some controversial contact for the race win in that one. So, you take everything that we've had here at the beginning of the season, you compound it all into coming here to New Hampshire, a place where certainly scores can be settled. I don't know. I mean, we've already seen some drama here before we've even completed lap 5.
It looks like Gary Corley had a little bit of blinking issues, but I'm looking back there. Eric Peterson, man, dropped an anchor. He is falling.
Gonna lose a spot there to Yari Brupacher in the 49, making his first start in the season. We saw him really do well last year, second half of the season, and they're both going to get bypassed by the 18 of Jeff Hysong. Boy, the thing that's kind of worrying me is especially when they're double wide coming off of turn 4. That's another thing that I was noticing in practice was double wide off the final corner. That car on the outside line, as the run goes on, they have to bail out of the throttle or else that thing just plows and hits the outside safer barrier.
And hearing you say that does not make it any less scary, unfortunately.
No.
And that's really what comes into mind of, hey, as we keep running away, and look at AJ Hobson here. AJ, I'd love to see him do well, but look at AJ Hobson. That's where you have to kind of get into that mindset of not overrunning what you have. Hey, yes, you have Rick Raybon behind you. You want to get away, but keep your same pace. Don't push harder. Don't burn up that right front thinking that you can gain a little bit of advantage on him, because Rick may be saving tires here. He's in draft. Now, draft does make the car handle differently, but you got to think, he's just there, and he doesn't even have to get on your bumper to kind of make you feel at least a little bit pressured. Don't make mistakes. If you think you're burning up the car, just give up the spot.
I want everybody to watch this battle here with the 63 and the 1. Hobson trying to hold off Rick Raybon. Oh, actually, might not even be able to hold him off there as he went a little wide through 3 and 4, and Raybon's going to take the top position. But watch these cars when they come off of turn 2. You're going to see a specific moment when they come off the second corner and hit the back straightaway. Watch how the back of the car bogs down. Right there, that transition from the banking to the flat, that's where the car unloads and where we've seen a lot of drivers in practice and maybe even in this race, we'll end up seeing drivers maybe get a little loose off of that corner. And as we saw with the Andrew Wood and Joe McAdory contact, there's a steel guardrail down there separating the infield from the racetrack. So you make contact, you're going to make hard contact. It's going to rip that car apart.
It's not going to feel nice. Actually, Seth, I got a fun fact for you. You know when AJ Hobson's last win was?
I don't actually.
Well, good, because we weren't broadcasting at that time. It was Dark Horse Season 2 at Auto Club. That was his last win in 2020. Guy has not won in 2 seasons. You got to think, hey, this is one of his best shots to kind of go out there and kind of show what he's got. You think he's going to take advantage of it?
Absolutely. Long winless streak there for AJ Hobson. This season has not gotten off to the start he would have liked. Right now, 14th in the point standings. He does have a top 5 run, but only 1 in the 2 starts that he's made so far. And right now, to your point, riding a long winless streak, would like to snap it here today at the Magic Mile, but he's about to have his hands full for second place because as Rick Raybon gets away for the race lead, Charles Teed is breathing down AJ Hobson's neck. Now, I do remember where Charles Teed's last victory was. That was back, if I recall correctly, season 3 at Iowa. So a short track, maybe going to be able to get another victory at another short track here in the Northeast.
You know, realistically, Charles Teed, Charlie Teed, Charles Teed, his results don't really show what he's been capable of and what he's been showing out the last few races. If I tell you his last 3 finishes, it will shock you. A 10th place at Pocono, a 7th place at Auto Club, and a 17th at Kentucky. Where at Kentucky, I believe he only finished... Actually, no. He did 130 laps. Man has been top 5, top 10 for almost all of these races.
Yes.
And it's kind of the same story. A great start, very strong, and then somewhere around the beginning to mid portion ends up getting in an incident and has to claw himself out of that hole, and just at that point it's either too little too late, or the car's too damaged, or he's just out of it.
He is in a dogfight right now with AJ Hobson, and one thing I was noticing in the early going, and I don't know if it's just the way that these drivers are carrying so much speed in the corner that they have to, but they're not really running down on that flat. You'll notice there's like a transition of the asphalt down the bottom, and then you see the darker gray asphalt up there on the top, and that's where most drivers have been running, up there in that dark gray. Not seeing a lot of drivers run down the inside line, and Charles Teed, while it looks like he's got the shorter way around the racetrack, it is the tougher area of the racetrack, that lower angle into the corner to maneuver, especially on corner exit when that car wants to push up.
So what you may be wondering is, hey, you're looking at him, you look at Charles Teed almost on the bottom inside line, kind of wiggling there, but you see him almost on the bottom, and you're kind of thinking in your mind, hey, he's on the shortest path around the racetrack. That's going to be the fastest line around the racetrack. Not exactly. Realistically, what Charles is doing here is he's kind of burning up that right front a little bit more. He's sacrificing it, but he's trying to get that shorter run across the racetrack and then kind of drive up in front of AJ Hobson, trying to take his line away. This is not a long-term strategy. This is a very short-term strategy. You risk burning up that right front and, again, careening into a wall, which is not advisable. But I'd be kind of interested to see how the tire fall-off is here.
Well, to your point there with the tire fall-off, if we look at lap times right now, we're only 20 laps into this stint, and drivers are running anywhere from 3 to 4 tenths slower than they did when we started this race. Most drivers, for the most part, were running 22.2s to 22.3s, and some drivers have already eclipsed into the 22.6s and 7s.
And looking here, I noticed that we actually had an interesting did not start tonight, which have to be the 3 of Matt Wagner.
Which is actually surprising in a couple of regards, based on the fact that coming into tonight, he was the defending winner of this race. New Hampshire's not been on the schedule very often. It's only been on the schedule now for 2 previous seasons. Oh, big hit! Is that Jari Brupacher that just got the wall hard there off of turn 4?
Yeah, he hit that wall a ton. I'm just looking at the back end. It looks like, oh, actually, now I'm looking back at it, it looks like he may have gotten just a little bit of help, but I'm not sure if it really was intentional, to be perfectly honest.
But Brupacher was running, I believe, in the 5th position. And that car is crabbing down the front straightaway. Obviously, heavy suspension damage as it lists its way back towards the pit lane. He's going to be able to... The good news for him is he's going to be able to drive it back, unlike Andrew Woods, so he should be able to get the fast repair done and stay on the lead lap.
Yeah, so this, unfortunately, was kind of what I was talking about, which was the strategy of kind of using that inside lane. So obviously, you're going down the back straightaway. I'm looking at Jari Brupacher here. He's trying to get the run off of Gary Corley. He's driving into the corner all the way on that aggressive line. You notice that, hey, you're looking at, my apologies. You're looking at Gary Corley, who's all the way up the racetrack. Now, his intention here is to drive off the corner pole in front of Gary Corley, where he can drive off in the preferred line. Unfortunately, it looks like Jari Brupacher slowed up just a little bit. Gary Corley got just a better run off the corner, and just Gatwack took care of the rest.
Take a look at the replay here of what happened to Brupacher. Andrew Wood is going to get the free pass as a result of this. He was 2 laps down when we went back green. He'll get one of those laps back, so he'll be -1. Get another caution. If he's the only car 1 lap down, he should be back on the lead lap, but as we would naturally assume, he is a fast repair in the hole after being involved in a wreck on the very first lap of this race. Here's a look at the Jari Brupacher incident. That's a hard impact there, and oh man, close call there for, is that the 0-4? Dylan McIntosh, I think, just barely was able to squeeze between Brupacher and that outside wall.
Was Daddis McMurray, just barely missed it. But kind of shedding some light on the Andrew Wood situation. I mean, At this point, Andrew Wood, he doesn't really have the luxury of kind of laying back and taking it slow. I mean, he wrecked out at Pocono. He missed Auto Club. At Kentucky, he had a really good run, ended up finishing P3. But, kind of looking at his point standings versus everyone else in the field who's had a really good gap in front of him, he needs to kind of set the world on fire here. He needs to really be kind of turning some hot laps.
He's on board with Jari Brupacher, and there you see the oncoming traffic there off the exit of turn 4. Fortunately, nobody else ended up hitting him, and he has indeed come down to pit road, and he has taken his faster pair on. I believe he and Andrew Wood, along with Joe McAdory, those are the 3 drivers right now that have already used their faster pair. Laps tick away quickly here, though, too. I mean, these drivers, they're sending it into the corner at 160 plus miles per hour. We're already 24 laps down in this 150 lap event, and how about this? Oh, well, never mind. He faked me out. 63 of A.J. Hobson looked like he was coming to pit lane, but then swung the wheel back to the right, came back out onto the racetrack. So I thought we were going to see the leader give up the top position. Nope, he's going to lead us back to green here instead.
Never let him know your next move, but realistically, I'm kind of concerned about A.J. Hobson here, partially because I'm not really sure how those tires are going to act after that run. I'm kind of 50-50 on that one. And then also, just fuel strategy, if we actually do go on a long green flag run, how that will affect.
Yeah, to your point, Gary Corley and Hobson, your top 2 right now, they stayed out under this caution. Rick Ravon and the rest of the field came down pit road. Rick will restart in 3rd, Charles Teed 4th, and Jeff Heisong in the 5th position. All 14 cars that started the race are still running, 13 on the lead lap. Andrew Wood, the only car 1 lap down at this point in time, as the iRacing pace car is about to hit pit road, turn them loose once again. Going to be officially 125 laps left in tonight's race here from New Hampshire.
A.J. Hobson's in control of the field, waits a very long time. See Rick Ray Vaughn making it 2 wide behind, almost thinks better of it.
Yeah, he wanted to try and time that restart to get around Gary Corley. He realizes he is the highest on the fresh tires and wants to take advantage of it. Charles T. Jeff Heisong, as they got wadded up, they've got Craig Forsyth with them. 3-way battle for the 4th position.
It's definitely nice to see Jeff Heisong kind of making that charge to the front. Man, Forsyth just made an aggressive move.
Man. Tried to dive it to the inside of Charles Teed off of turn 4. Now he had to lift. That momentum is going to bring Eric Peterson to his rear wing. Thaddeus McMurray there, and McMurray's got Luis Gonzalez Nunez to his inside. So a lot of side-by-side racing from about the 4th position. A back contact there between McMurray and Nunez off of turn 4.
Man, Heisong and Forsyth are 2 men on a mission. They're just trying to track down that 1, and that 1 is getting stuck behind the 63. Ravon's trying to make a move. He sees those 2 coming.
Peterson trying to pick up a spot on Craig Forsyth for 6th. Rick Ravon's going to go to the point. He should be clear into turn 1 on A.J. Hobson, and he indeed will be. Rick Ravon trying to join Craig Forsyth as a multi-time winner this season. So far, the 1 and the 27, the only cars that have found victory lane so far this year.
Keep looking back here through the field. I mean, you can see how tough it is to pass, but definitely new tires aid that a lot more. I'd say realistically, the most passes we're going to see is obviously on restarts with the tire differences, but we're also going to see a lot of passes during pit stops when, again, there's kind of that new to old tire deficit, and we're going to see a lot of people trying to take advantage of that, trying to jump on it. See Forsyth, or my apologies, Heisong still battling A.J. Hobson. Charles Teed almost hit the side of Gary Corley.
I think Corley might have gotten the wall. If not, it was close. Might have brushed the outside wall with the right side tires.
Corley's been dropping like a rock. He does not look confident in that car.
Well, remember, too, he's on now 31-lap-old tires.
Oh, right behind!
Oh, my
AJ,
gosh, is that McMurray?
That was Thaddeus McMurray, and I think he just got sent to the afterlife.
I think he just rode the catch fence. My gosh, we just saw that in the back region of the camera shot.
No caution, though.
How is there no yellow? Is it because it was considered off the racing surface?
Well, I mean, Thaddeus McMurray just paid for a general admission ticket. He's probably sitting in the stands right now. But realistically behind them, there was no immediate car that would have brought out the caution.
Now the
Oh, it looks
caution's
like
out.
caution's out.
I don't know if that's admin thrown. I'm seeing David Cook, though,
I don't
is...
believe it was admin thrown. I
Whoa.
believe it was Eric Peterson. Eric Peterson spun out of the corner.
David Cook just came to pit
Oh no.
road.
Eric Peterson looks like he had some contact with
Oh,
Gary
wow.
Corley, and oh
Yeah, that
no.
whole front wing is gone on Eric Peterson's machine. And Eric was actually really moving his way up towards the front. I think he was around the, what, 6th, 7th position. So we got a couple of replays to look back at. Let's first look at the incident that did not bring out the yellow. That is McMurray. And then we'll look at the contact between Corley and Peterson. David Cook came down pit road with no front wing, got some damage repaired. I think actually he might have been the one that got involved with Thaddeus McMurray here in the 37, as we'll see into turn 3.
So I will say that Luis Gonzalez Nunez have not had a good night.
Yeah.
And we need to retrieve Thaddeus McMurray's car from the grandstands.
I think it's stuck in one of those pieces of shrubbery over there off of turn 4. Yeah, it was a 3 wide with Nunez on the bottom. David Cook was in the middle, and Thaddeus McMurray was unfortunately on the outside.
I can't really fault this on Thaddeus McMurray because he was holding the outside line. There's really nowhere he could go. It just kind of got squeezed. I mean, again, you can always use that mindset of it's lap 30 of lap 150, kind of back out, take it easy. But you got to remember, I don't think he realized there was another car inside, so that kind of got a little bit iffy.
Well, think about it too. With him being on the extreme outside line, he's got the preferred line, really, going into the corner. We've seen most of the drivers, they've migrated up to the top side of the racetrack. So was it up, really, I would think, to Nunez to be the one to back out of that 3 wide situation? Because I just don't think that was going to work.
Looking back at it, I'm noticing Nunez kind of goes to squeeze the 6. I don't know if Nunez knew he was 3. I think he actually thought he was 2, and he was trying to squeeze the 6 up the track a little bit. I'm not sure about the whole idea behind that one. And then kind of looking back at the Eric Peterson incident, that there's been some weird incidents tonight, to put very lightly. It really looks like they just got a little bit tight out of the corner. It looks like Eric didn't exactly get to his inside line that he anticipated, and Gary was having issues kind of holding on that outside line. But that one was almost 100% on Eric, just kind of coming up into the side pod wheel area of Gary Corley and sent himself right on around, took out the whole front end of that car.
There's some big impact into that inside wall separating the racetrack from pit lane. Seen a lot of torn up race cars here in the early going at New Hampshire, and we're going to see now, I would think, maybe a good half dozen drivers that are already going to be a faster pair in the hole. So we're going to have a kind of split 50-50 of drivers that still have the faster pair and drivers that don't. And caution was good news for Andrew Wood because he gets the lucky dog. He's back on the lead lap. David Cook lost a lap when he came down pit road under green flag conditions to get that front wing put back on. And Thaddeus McMurray, he's back on the racetrack, but he is now 3 laps down after he had to basically do the tow from outside the boundaries of the racetrack back to pit lane.
And Andrew Wood, he has had an experience thus far. Just watching his onboard, he was pretty much within witness of both of those accidents. At that point, I mean, seeing as how this race has had 3 wrecks in the span of 30 laps, 2 cautions, but 3 wrecks in a span of 30 laps. Would that change how you race the rest of the race? Or would that make you more cautious? Or would that just tell you, hey, does that incentivize short-term gains of, hey, if I can quickly drive up the field, or I can quickly pass 2 or 3 cars, there's going to be another caution, another lap, and I can reset and do it all over again?
Well, I'm almost wondering if kind of the question I posed to you earlier, if maybe that's why we're seeing them be so aggressive in the early going and may not see any change once the green flag drops again, is the fact that track position is so important. It's so difficult to be able to complete that pass on the inside. Everybody is going to be up there on the top line, the preferred lines, that you have to take a lane that you might not be quite as comfortable with down on the bottom to try and complete the passes. You kind of put yourself in a bit of a perilous position. So get the spots while you can, while everybody's bunched up.
And Jeff Highsong looks like a man on a mission. I have not seen that man be so aggressive here at this track, but he is really trying to push it as Greg Forsyth now drives away. But Rick Ray Vaughn, I think it's really going to be the Rick Ray Vaughn, Forsyth, and Highsong show today. Unless Charles T can kind of shift into a seventh gear and kind of get up there.
Yeah, Jeff Heisong, he's been in the conversation 2 out of the last 3 weeks of maybe picking up the checkered flag. He's top 5 in the point standings coming into this one. To your point, though, yes, it's kind of like he's flipped the book on what we're usually used to seeing Jeff Heisong do. Been a lot more competitive this year, and I don't think it's outside the realm of the possibility that we'll see him pick up a checkered flag before the end of the season.
And it's definitely one of those welcome changes where, again, you have guys that you root for in the series and you want to see them do well. And seeing that season progression of season after season continuing just to ramp up the performance to a point where they become a constant threat every week, that is amazing.
So we should also point out that we ended up having a split of drivers come to pit lane under that last caution and drivers stay out. Looks like a total of 6 drivers elected to stay out under this previous caution period. They included your top 5 from Raybon back to Nunez, and then also the 0-4 of Dylan McIntosh. Everybody else, they came down pit road. So again, the strategies were split. There are no tire limits for these drivers, and we saw in the early going a difference of, I think it was 15, 20 laps, saw about a loss of 2 to 3 tenths. Well, the drivers out there on old tires right now, they are at an a 13 lap difference on their tires to the rest of the fresh tires behind them.
I'm kind of looking at Charles Teed here, and he kind of pulled one of those risky moves out of 3 and 4, trying to make a dive and just didn't stick, and he lost position to Luis Gonzalez Nunez. I'm kind of wondering if his tire fade is kind of slowly taking advantage of him.
Yeah, and obviously the car's not going to feel the same going into turn 1 on 20-lap old tires than it will when you're on fresh tires. These drivers kind of have to get used to that as well. Got a good battle going on back here between the 2 highest drivers on the fresh Firestones. AJ Hobson in the 63, our pole sitter. Gary Corley in the 7. That's another driver that actually has seemed to really come to life and be a lot more competitive. Gary Corley up there in the point standings this season. It's a guy that, as I recall, last couple of seasons, we saw up inside the top 10, but usually in the latter half. He's been up inside the top 5 quite a bit here in the early going of the year.
And it's always, seeing that difference in performance is always a welcome change. But also kind of the big drop-offs. Those are also the big kind of, what do we used to call them? Like the Kmart blue light specials? Kind of one of those spotlights of, hey, when I see a performance drop off, that's kind of, hey, what's happened? Is something changed to this car? Something changed to the setup, just not confident? And that could be for a whole variety of reasons.
Driver settling in to another long green flag run potentially here, nearing 100 laps to go. These drivers so far this season, they started things out at the 2.5-mile Pocono Raceway. We then went to the 2-mile Auto Club Speedway. Then we went to the 1.5 miles last week at Kentucky. We're here at the Magic Mile at New Hampshire. These guys are getting an off week next week. Then they'll be back at it when we head to the desert at Phoenix. And I found it interesting that New Hampshire and Phoenix are the 2 tracks that are next to each other with the off week in between, because when I think of New Hampshire, when I think of Phoenix, a lot of similarities in the fact that there's not a lot of banking in the corners and whatnot. So, the guys that we're seeing be up at the front here today, are they drivers that we're then going to point the finger at in 2 weeks' time, since it's somewhat similar in terms of the layout and configuration?
Reasonably, yes and no. Obviously, yes, because it is a kind of similar set of track layout where you can kind of point similarities saying, oh, yeah, this looks similar to this track and such. But Phoenix is just a whole different kind of... Phoenix and Milwaukee Mile, to be honest, are kind of just different tracks in a whole segment. Where Phoenix is, looks like it's the new Phoenix. So we'd be using with the open dog leg, so you can easily kind of arc down the track and use all that extra space. And there is ample passing opportunity there. But if you look at some place like the Milwaukee Mile, the Milwaukee Mile is almost effectively a longer version of New Hampshire with tighter turns. So we're going to see a lot more of the same.
It's interesting. I'm looking here. We're on board with Craig Forsyth, seeing the gap visibly between himself and race leader Rick Raybon. earlier on in the race, we took an onboard with Charles Teed, and we were looking at the RPMs and the gear that Teed was running, and he was in 5th gear. Forsyth right now running in 6th gear. So I have to wonder, is this a comfort level in the stability of the race car, the difference of the gearing going into the corner between the 5 and the 27? Or is it an opportunity running this race in 6th gear to maybe save a little bit of fuel?
It probably is a fuel play rather than a stability play. I do know that Rick Ravon and Craig Forsyth a lap ago did run the same lap of 22.3. So they kind of got the most same strategy here, but they're both equally matched. So they can't really take an advantage of it. I'd be interested to see if we have pit stops or get another caution, see how kind of that launch takes off and how they handle it.
It's the best battle on the racetrack right now, the closest battle. It's a 3-way fight for the 3rd position. Jeff Hysong has it. He's got about 0.4 of a second back to Luis Gonzalez Nunez, then another 0.4 of a second back to Charles Teed. Teed had actually started reeling Nunez in for 4th. He was about 0.2 of a second off, but must have had a slip up there in the last lap or two because the daylight has opened between those two drivers. The gap still, though, remains about 3.5 car lengths from Hysong back to Nunez, but Nunez's car does not look at all happy. That thing is sliding off the corner, almost going up into the wall off of turn 2. You saw him have to kind of gather it, get the nose pointed straight again down the back straightaway that last time by.
Realistically, that could be a kind of a variety of things of, hey, there may be some damage on the side of that car. It looks like there's a little bit of side pod damage that may be making it a little bit unstable. But there also could be, hey, Nunez is a wheelman. He is trying to wheel that car as much as he can, and he may just be trying to ask for just a little bit too much, and it's giving him a little bit of fight. So it's kind of here, there. I'd be interested to see if he got that damage fixed, how it would be, but realistically, he just does not look comfortable.
As you can see right there, the elements kind of come into play here as well. Not a lot of banking, slick, and the track temperature at 97 degrees. So that's just going to make the handling of these race cars even worse when they're sliding off of 2 and off of 4. The gap still remains about 0.7 of a second between Rick Ravon and Craig Forsyth. We've seen Craig, the last 2 times he's gone to victory lane, it's been kind of opposite sides of the spectrum. You and I were talking about this before we came on the air. You go back to when he won at Auto Club, that was entirely on fuel strategy. He was on fumes crossing the start finish line. Last week, though, more of a dominating performance, keeping his car out in front, not having to worry about fuel at Kentucky. So with that being said, I mean, is he just in ride mode right now, just keeping the one within striking distance? Because wins are important. You get the max points if you go to victory lane, but we got to remember, this is IndyCar rules. It's the driver that accumulates the most points at the end of the season that wins the championship. So Forsyth has been able to already throw down the early gauntlet with back-to-back victories. Now he's just got to keep his competition close, make sure they don't gain a huge chunk of points on him.
I mean, realistically, those top 2, both Ravon and Forsyth, they both come here with the mindset of, hey, we have to win. Because realistically, that's what it's going to take to win this championship. Because realistically, if Ravon slacks off, Forsyth will take advantage. If Forsyth slacks off, Ravon will be there to capitalize. That's what the big thing is. So we're going to be battling 1-2, I'm going to say effectively all season. But it's going to be who has the better runs, who has the more momentum. Where I'm kind of liking Forsyth here today. He has the previous momentum at Auto Club. He has that at Kentucky. He's on a good roll. But obviously this track is kind of a momentum changer. This is how I really say, assert dominance for the next few races. Looking at New Hampshire this week. Then we have an off week next week. And then we go to Phoenix on September the 11th. And then obviously you've got Michigan. We're going to go ahead and just erase Michigan from our minds right now. And then to Milwaukee. These are 3 very similar tracks like you were telling me. They're 3 very similar tracks, and they're going to drive a lot the same. So it's, again, reason to believe if you do well.
Oh, we got Yuri Brupacher sliding off a 4 down pit road. Nobody hit him. He didn't even hit the pit wall. No caution will come out, though.
Yeah, definitely a big slide. I actually think he legally got on pit road.
I think he did.
He may have violated pit road speed, though.
Well, he's very lucky. That car came to a stop right in that opening there to get to the infield. That pit wall did not hit the pit road wall either, separating the racetrack from pit road. He got very lucky with where that spin was.
Nunez is coming in for a pit stop.
Yeah, so this is something I was just about to bring up. we didn't know exactly what the fuel window was for these guys, but we knew that at the mile-and-a-half track last week, they could go about 29 to 33 laps. So I was going to be generous and say they could probably go about maybe 40 to 43 laps here at the mile racetrack, and that's about the time now that Nunez is coming to pit lane. So we're going to see others. Here they come. Rick Ravon, Craig Forsyth, the drivers that stayed out under the last caution, now having to come to pit road under green flag conditions. So they rolled the dice, Matt. Now they do not need to see a caution because this is a track that you are guaranteed to lose a lap at when you come to pit road under green flag conditions.
And that's the thing, they all got their mind set. And realistically, like you said, a caution can immediately destroy all of their strategy, and now you're just basically in recovery mode.
Jeff Hysong going to give up the lead to come to pit road here. Charles Teed going to get a lap led. He should probably be on pit road next time by. That would then turn the lead over to AJ Hobson, who won't have to be to pit lane for another 10 laps since he came to pit road along with the rest of the other drivers behind him under the last yellow flag.
Just looking at this here, AJ Hobson, that's an interesting strategy. I don't know about that.
I mean, regardless, well, okay, actually, yeah, now I know why you're kind of pondering it because, yeah, all the drivers at pit right now probably can make it on one more stop. AJ Hobson, if he has to come to pit road in, say, the next 10 laps, that's going to be roughly, we'll say, 70 laps away from the end of this race. He's going to have to come pit road again. So all these guys right now that are coming onto pit road, they're going to probably be able to come to pit lane only one more time. Hobson and company, if this thing stays green, they're going to have to be on pit lane twice before the checkered flag.
Yeah, it's a interesting roll of the dice. I think he's betting on a caution. I think he's betting on something to happen that will buy him at least a better strategy. It's going to be a kind of risk versus reward, hoping for the best.
Andrew Wood, we saw him up and over before he even completed the first lap of this race. He's now the new race leader. That's Luis Gonzalez Nunez getting his lap back. And there's the caution. It's Charles Teed.
And sadly, I knew it was kind of one of those matters of time. That's a Teed had. Oh, this is what I've been talking about.
Did he
that kind of
coming off of pit road? I mean, that car was just exiting on the apron of 1 and 2. He's the only driver I saw, at least on my telemetry, that was slow.
I can tell you exactly what happened because I've done this personally. He had pit limiter on. The moment he got out of pit lane, pit limiter went off, and he probably had his foot pegged on the pit limiter. So when he hit the pit limiter off, he gave it full beans, immediately going out of pit road on cold tires. And at that point, there is nothing he could do.
Boy,
That's it's one of those embarrassing mistakes, but it's one of those we've all been there before.
Here's a look at it. Very fortunate for him that there was a lot of runoff there when he spun out. Of course, New Hampshire has a road course configuration in the infield. That right there you can see would have been the left-hander coming off pit road, heading into the first few couple corners of the road course config. So he didn't hit anything, but caution nonetheless coming out as he spun it up close to that yellow line with oncoming traffic. And there were about 4 or 5 drivers, I believe, that were a lap down at the time. Most notably, Jeff Hysong, Gary Corley, and Dylan McIntosh. Nunez had just gotten his lap back when he got around Andrew Wood, so he didn't have to rely on a lucky dog. I'm not exactly certain who the lucky dog driver is actually going to be.
I am divided. Again, this is kind of one of those nightmare scenarios that a lot of these guys did not want to happen.
It's like Rick Ravon, he is going to cycle out as the leader. Andrew Wood appears that he'll be second. So Rick Ravon's the race leader because everybody came down pit road of those that were still on the lead lap. Rick had managed to remain on the lead lap. He got his lap back from Andrew Wood prior to that caution, so he stayed out. Peterson right now has scored 3rd, Hobson 4th, and Joe McAdory is now in the 5th position. I believe Jeff Hysong would have been the driver that gets the lucky dog. You notice up ahead of race leader Rick Ravon, there's a few machines, one of which I believe is Charles Teed. The other one is
I'm happy we
Gary
fished
Corley.
Status McMurray's car out of the catch fencing.
So I think these three drivers, Teed, Corley, and McMurray, they're going to be trying to take the wave around here. So if everything cycles around the way it should, we'll have 11 drivers on the lead lap here.
I'm looking at Andrew Wood. I think he's really set himself up in a good position here.
Yeah.
All things considered.
Yeah, we talk about, drivers that have great runs during the race, but they don't have the results to show just how good a cars they had. Andrew Wood is one of those drivers. He's only made 2 starts this season, but he ran really well in the season opener at Pocono, got caught up in a late race incident. He had a solid top 5 outing last week at Kentucky, subsequently 15th in the point standings, but a driver in the last 2 times we've seen him on the racetrack that we've had in the conversation for the checkered flag. And to your point now, getting nearing the halfway point, he's got himself up here with a shot of maybe picking up his first win on the season.
That's kind of a far cry from how he started this race sideways, and it kind of brings it back a little bit to my memory of, hey, do you remember the one who kind of got him into that situation?
Yeah. Could be a very
some food for thought.
Restart.
Just some food for thought.
So I believe that the lights are out. Yep, we are going back green this time. Rick Ravon going to get us back underway, and we'll be at the halfway point of tonight's race here at New Hampshire. Andrew Wood lined up second, Peterson, Hobson, and McAdory the top 5 as, man, things wadded up again. And Hobson is going to bypass Eric Peterson on the top. I don't know what the restart rules are here, but that's at least the second or third restart I've seen where the race leader has wadded him all up behind. Obviously, the race leader has the choice of when he wants to go green. Everybody else is trying to anticipate, but I've seen a couple of drivers almost complete passes. In the case there of the 63, complete a pass before they get to the start-finish line. I don't know if there's a ruling on that or not.
No, I'll actually come to the defense of Rick Ravon. That actually was nothing he did. He did maintain the pace speed of 55 miles an hour the entire time.
Right.
But behind him, going into Eric Peterson and AJ Hobson, Hobson is the one I'm kind of curious about because it's one of those old tricks that we use of, hey, trying to anticipate and jump the restart. But IndyCar restarts work just a little bit differently than our full-body stock car boys. So I'm not 100% sure on that.
Yeah, I'm not either. I think you're absolutely right, though. All reactionary behind Rick Ravon, drivers trying to anticipate when he was going to accelerate as Peterson pushing up the track there off of 4. He's going to hold up David Cook on that top sign. Forsyth says, all right, I'll go 2 for the price of 1 here through 1 and 2. Things are really sketchy back here around that 4th, 5th position.
And this is why it's so vital to bit those passes in while your tires are still fresh. Kind of make your track position while everyone's trying to wear out their stuff, and that's what Forsyth just can't get the power off the corner.
My gosh, it's the second time that David Cook gets held up behind a driver that lost momentum off of turn 4. Kind of gets boxed in there between the slower machine and the outside wall. He's going to lose 2 positions as a result.
And that's how risky it is to make passes here. But look at the battle for the lead. Kind of in that same situation that Forsyth was in, but it looks like Andrew Wood has just a little bit more gusto here.
Yeah, keeping Rick Ravon about 2.5 car length separation. Nice run there off a turn 2, using that inside line. So he might have found something here, running back in traffic, having to make his way up to the front. Don't forget, Andrew Wood started this race from the outside of the front row, so he was expecting to be out in clean air for a majority of this race. Ended up getting involved in that early wreck. Back in traffic, was a lap down actually at one point as well. Had to rely on a couple lucky dogs to get back in the lead lap. So he might have learned a couple of tricks in passing race cars that he can now utilize in trying to get the top position.
I don't know if he more or less learned tricks. I think he more or less just kind of gained a little bit of a chip on his shoulder of, man, I just hate that you put me back there. So I think that's kind of what's driving him forward is, hey, he's a little bit ticked off right now and he wants to get back up there.
This wild battle for 4th place will not go away. Forsyth is going to complete the pass on Eric Peterson. Peterson looks to cross him over down the back straightaway with a good run off of 2. Meanwhile, Nunez and David Cook, those two have exchanged some contact earlier on tonight. They're in a fist fight for 4th, or make that 5th position.
And realistically, looking at Nunez, he is just driving the wheels off that car. He's kind of pushing that boundary of too far to he's just in control.
Yeah, Nunez got his first podium finish of the season last week at Kentucky, trying to ride that momentum as he'll drive it to the inside of Eric Peterson. And
Man,
Peterson,
Peterson,
wow, way wide there through 3 and 4.
I don't know if he just kind of lost where he was on the track or just did not anticipate it being that tight.
And he's going to drop a couple of spots there. David Cook gets around him. Jeff Hysong, the pass for 7th. So in the span of a lap, Eric Peterson's problem here in turn 4, 1 lap ago, puts him from 5th now back to 8th, and he might lose another spot. Charles Teed now to the inside going into 1.
And T's just trying to get back up and kind of gain whatever he'd lost. But again, it's that kind of whole thing of he can have these great runs at the beginning. Around the middle, he kind of starts falling apart, and it's kind of that whole clawing back and trying to gain everything he lost, and it's again that too little too late moment.
Remember, Charles Teed brought out the last caution with the spin off of pit road. He remained on the lead lap. We saw Jari Brupacher during the green flag run spin onto pit road, not hit anything, but he lost 2 laps during that period before the caution flew. So that's where he currently is scored, -2 in the 13th position. He is back on the racetrack, but he, along with Dylan McIntosh and Thaddeus McMurray, they are all off the lead lap. McIntosh would be in the free pass position should we get a caution. And third place battle now going to be Forsyth and Hobson. Hobson almost got the wall off of turn 2.
Wow, looking here, there's been a lot of guys pushing. Looks like Andrew Woods kind of backed off the battle now. Don't know if he's kind of lost the tires a little bit or just trying to save fuel. But obviously, AJ Hobson is one of the most interesting cases. He definitely got helped out by the caution, but I don't know if he can really maintain that long run pace.
Here comes Nunez. Nunez has been a mainstay on that inside line. He seems to be the only one comfortable down there trying to make passes. He's going to try and get that 4th position from Craig Forsyth. Might be able to get up there to Hobson as well, who pushes up off of 2 and nearly lost it off the second corner. That killed the momentum of Forsyth and allows Nunez to move up into 3rd.
It's kind of like a little bit of a hornet's nest. That's it. He's really trying to drive that car, and I'm not sure if it really has it in it. It looks very unstable.
Yeah, you could just see right there off of turn 2, yanking on the wheel to try and get it to turn left and not go to that outside retaining wall. Now, he is on equal tires to everybody else, so you're probably wondering, well, why would he be struggling while others are getting around him? A lot of that is how much you abuse those race tires in the early going, how much tire heat is built up. The tire heat in those Firestones is going to basically determine how much turn you have on corner exit.
And that's the thing, you don't want to turn that right front into a literal Firestone, because that's exactly what it will feel like. It will not turn. And that's the biggest thing you want to avoid. But you obviously have to maintain that pace, where I'm looking at Andrew Wood, and I'm thinking he burnt off that right front with how much he's dropped off in pace.
Charles Teed tried to get the spot from AJ Hobson there. That would have been 7th. He'll dive it down to the inside again here through 3 and 4 as Hobson continues to free fall through the field. Lost the spot to Jeff Hysong last lap, so Hysong now up to 6th. Possible battle brewing up there for the 3rd position between Nunez, Forsyth, and David Cook. Less than a second separating those 3.
David Cook, he has just not looked as comfortable tonight as you would expect on a lot of the tracks that he showed up at. I mean, Auto Club, he was one of the guys who, great condensing to win, but he just has not looked comfortable at New Hampshire.
Yeah, really interesting that David Cook and Craig Forsyth both foregoing qualifying and getting themselves good starting track position. Forsyth has been able to work his way up here to the front. David Cook was involved in a wreck back, I think it was the 2nd caution of the evening, and he has since been able to work his way back up here inside of the top 5. But I'd love to have been a fly on the wall and find out why there were a number of drivers that decided not to qualify in this race. Jeff Hysong back there in 6th position was another driver that did not lay down a qualifying lap time.
It really could just also kind of equate the confidence where, I mean, if you don't feel confident at a certain track, or you're maybe expecting a kind of a harsh start where just some of these guys may not have the get up and go that you expect. Again, I may be more partial to not being up at the front of the pack. I want to qualify in the back, or I don't want to qualify at all.
another thing that will give you an air of confidence is knowing that you have a faster pair still available in this race, and there's not many that fit that bill right now. Rick Ravon, Craig Forsyth, Jeff Hysong, Charles Teed, as well as AJ Hobson. Those are the drivers right now on the lead lap that have a faster pair left. Dylan McIntosh, who is right now one lap down, also a faster pair left. So, I mean, 14 drivers took the green flag, and only a half dozen still have that mulligan available as we're nearing 50 laps to go.
Just kind of looking here. I'm noticing, looking at Ravon's pace, Andrew Wood has fallen. He's staying within about a tenth of what Ravon is doing, but his lap times are more inconsistent, where we're kind of more over the board.
Battle for third is really the closest battle on track. Things have spread out all the way through the field. Maybe a battle for 8th position where AJ Hobson continues to fall back. He's about to enter into the clutches of Eric Peterson. Forsyth continuing to try and reel in Luis Gonzalez Nunez, who is almost a second and a half up ahead. It's then 4 seconds further up to Andrew Wood. And Andrew Wood is right now also running about 3.5, 4 seconds behind Rick Ravon. So there's really no battling on the racetrack. So does that mean the X factor is going to be pit road? Because we know that when these guys went back green, based off when we saw a lot of drivers come down for green flag pit stops, they can't make it the rest of the way on what they've got in the tank.
And that's going to be the big thing of how much fuel do I need to load in my car? Do I need to take tires? Should I take right side tires only? Or it's kind of one of those things where if I could tell you on a stock car, hey, I can throw right side tires on it, I can leave the left side tires on, it'll make the car turn. They'll turn very well, by the way. It'll turn very well, but realistically, I'm not really sure in an IndyCar if that will help you or if that's exactly what you want here.
Well, we've got a bunch of racing coming up this week. Be sure to tune in this Tuesday night. And the Great Lake Truck Series, they're going to be short track racing on their own. They're going to be at Five Flag Speedway. That should be an interesting one. Wednesday night, the Reaper Speed Lab Truck Series, they're coming back. They begin their playoffs at the Lady in Black Darlington International. And then Thursday night, the RTG Super Speedway Series, the Tally Challenge, they get their 57th season underway. Or correction, actually, I believe it's the 56th season underway.
57, I think.
57. Yeah, you would know, right? 57, your number?
Yeah, I'm a little bit partial to it.
Just a tad. Oh, wow. I don't know what happened here with Andrew Wood, but not only has he fallen off of Rick Ravon, but Luis Gonzalez Nunez, he must have found a different gear 3 laps ago because he has closed up in the battle for second.
Realistically, I think Andrew Wood has burnt up those tires. I don't think he has that same speed. He has not been matching what Rick Ravon has been capable of, and he has kind of paid the price for it. Now, Nunez has been a little bit lighter on his tires, but I think the one of Ravon maybe coming into pits this time. Man, Thaddeus McMurray almost got pushed into the wall by AJ Hobson.
And to your point, Ravon indeed hitting the pit lane. Got to make sure you don't speed here because you could be throwing away a victory. Now, coming to pit road with 45 laps to go, this is lap 35, I believe, of his run. Boy, the big question mark right now is, did he come to pit road when the fuel window opened to be able to make it the rest of the way? Or did he come to pit road on the final lap of his stint? Because if it's the latter, that means he's going to have to come to pit lane somewhere in between, 6 to 8 laps remaining if we stay under green flag conditions.
Seeing the surprising lack of cars, I think he's trying to make it to the end on this stop. So he's just trying to get enough fuel in it to make it to the end. So I think other guys may be running it out to the end of their stints, and they're going to take a lesser amount of fuel. Now, that's going to be a little bit iffy. I'm interested to see how that one works out.
Yeah, if we end up let's also take 6 laps away from Rick Ravon as well, because he stayed out under the last caution, and he had 6 laps on his tires at the time after he had been able to race his way back on the lead lap when we had that caution about in the middle of green flag pit stop. So if we take those 6 laps and add them to how far he went, yeah, that might have actually been a pit stop he had to make out of necessity, and we might see the rest of the field down pit road in the next 6 to 8 laps.
Well, but again, that kind of goes into forcing people's hands. I don't know how it's going to really affect the outcome of this race. Is him having to stop earlier going to affect him? He had to take that whole can of fuel, as you see Gary Corley on pit road just kind of making his way out now.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to see just how far these drivers can go, and that will give us an idea of just how far the fuel window is from green flag restart to green flag pit stop. Luis Gonzalez Nunez about to cross the line to complete his 39th lap on this stint. So if they can make it another 5 laps or so, then I think that easily Rick Ravon would have made his final stop of the day.
And Craig Forsythe's coming down here now.
Yep, Nunez in as well. That'll turn the race lead back over to Andrew Wood, but for how long? David Cook starting to reel him in.
Andrew Wood looks like he's making his appearance on pit road this time. Same thing as David Cook.
Yeah, Charles Teed was on pit road there with Forsythe and Nunez. Not a huge transition from the banking or lack thereof through 3 and 4 to the flat apron.
High Song spun it on the entry of pit road. Did lose a bit of time. He was on AJ Hobson as they were entering. Just couldn't get slowed up just enough.
And I'm going to eat my words that I was just about to say. I was going to say not that much of a transition, so maybe a little bit easier to get onto pit lane, and Jeff Highsong proving me wrong. Caution!
I think that's the main thing. Oh,
Hobson.
no.
No, it's not Hobson. Who is it? Is it Peterson? Somebody looped it.
Let me take a look here. I see something happened.
Yeah.
May have been Joe McAdory.
And we had a bunch of drivers coming down.
Oh, it was Joe McAdory. McAdory spun it on entry. That was a really late commitment. Oh, yeah, he
out again.
He had too much bias.
I believe that the race lead was about to cycle around to Rick Ravon, so another timely caution there for the 1 car. If that had happened just a couple laps sooner, Rick more than likely would have been -1, would have had to have gotten the lucky dog, which would have put him back in the lead lap, but way back in traffic. We'll take a look at the Joe McAdory spin. Documented last week, the new colors on that 312, the D1 Life sponsorship.
And realistically, he just kind of been taking it easy. I hate to see it, but again, that's kind of one of the mistakes where it looks like he was trying to get on pit road and he just kind of entered way too late and way too fast.
He enter a little too wide, because we saw most drivers when they hit pit lane, they were already down on the apron transition before they got to that yellow line. It looked like he kind of swung his car out a little bit there and tried to take a straight approach into pit road. Oh, you know, actually, I'm not gonna lie, I think he was in trouble before he even got down the apron. I mean, that you could kind of see with the onboard there, the back end of the car, he was trying to hang on to that thing. I think it was starting to step out on him off of turn 4.
It could be just worn tires at the end of the run.
Take another look here and see if we can visibly see from the outside of the race car if it looked like the back end was stepping out. Oh yeah, you can see right there. He's trying to gather the car up, and then the thing just snaps around. You talked about with Charles Teed, when we saw his spin off of pit lane being on the pit limiter. Could that have been a transition to the pit limiter for the 312 that snapped him around?
So, resetting for strategy-wise, I don't know if I like the position that Rick Ravon's in. Because technically he had to come in a lot earlier than a lot of these guys. And he's on older tires. Not that older, but a little bit older.
The other thing I'd be worried about as well is Luis Gonzalez Nunez has a rocket ship, and he's going to be starting right behind him. We saw Nunez back in the fourth position, and he was able to race his way up to second place, getting around both Craig Forsyth and Andrew Wood. So his lap times did not match Rick Ravon's during that run. Obviously, he was in traffic, Ravon out in clean air. But now it will be interesting to see with these two lined up nose to tail if Nunez has anything for the driver that has dominated this race so far today.
I mean, look at Nunez. that car has seen some interesting racing today.
It has. Now, the thing we have to remember there with Nunez as well, he's riding momentum from that podium finish last week. He's trying to gain points, but he has no mulligan left. He has already used the faster pairs, so will that be in the back of his mind on how aggressive he'll race Rick Ravon here for the race lead, as Ravon again with leader's advantage on when to accelerate, going to open up about 4 car lengths or so through 1 and 2. The battle may be for second before it's for the race lead. Forsyth trying to close in on the 14.
Realistically, I think the best thing that could happen right now is Luis needs to kind of push it and kind of get to Ravon and kind of hold him up a little bit, because once you hold him up a little bit, you kind of open up the door for someone else to get up there. And when you got 2 guys up there fighting for the lead, I think it really will kind of even the playing field here.
Good comeback run so far here for Charles Teed in 4th, Andrew Wood in 5th. You got David Cook there as well in 6th. All 3 of these drivers have had some problems here tonight that they've had to kind of mount comeback charges from, and battling here for the final spots inside of the top 5 is back up at the front. It's only about 2.5 tenths of a second from Ravon back to Nunez, and he has a rear wing full of Craig Forsyth.
I'm seeing Forsyth. Forsyth knows he wants to get up there, but he can't risk compromising his current strategy. And right now, with them being so close to Rick Ravon, I don't think making that pass through lead right now, or pass or second right now, is really the best option.
I want to go back to your questioning about the strategy here for Rick Ravon on whether he could maybe make it on fuel, and I believe he can. We saw most drivers when they came down to make a green flag pit stop under the last run, they came down around the completion of lap 39 to lap 40 of their stint. Rick Ravon was on pit road about 16 laps ago, so technically with about 44 laps remaining. That would have put him maybe a little bit over his fuel numbers, but remember as well, he would have had the opportunity to shut the car off and save some fuel under the pacing period we just had. So he might be right on the edge of making it to the checkered flag.
I'd say the only way he would have been able to really save fuel by just putting in neutral and hoping for the best. I don't know how much fuel he would have saved, but he will. I think that's going to be one of those, we'll know it when we know it.
Yeah, I mean, if he is short on fuel, he's just got to run hard right now and just hope maybe a caution will save him or something, and maybe be able to save a little bit more under another pacing period, because there's no way he can go into fuel safe mode at this point in time with Nunez and Forsyth breathing down his neck.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing where Nunez needs to keep that pressure on, force Ravon to run harder than he wants. That's where he can't save any fuel, where he can't save any tire.
On board with David Cook, the 6 in the 6th position and in 6th gear, so there you go. Lots of 6s there, as he's going to have the preferred line here behind Charles T. Try and get a run on Andrew Wood for the 5th position. And you can just see with his onboard there, that's the race leader, Rick Ravon, going into turn 3. I mean, throw a blanket pretty much over your entire top 6.
Just kind of see him back there. It looks like they're too wide. I'd say it looks like Andrew Wood's trying to claw his way back from David Cook. I just don't think Andrew Wood has that long run pace. I don't think he's learned how to save tires well enough in that. But Heisong definitely trying to make his way back, trying to claw his way back from 7th.
Gary Corley in the 7 just came to pit road last lap. I have to assume this is an unscheduled stop for him. I don't know if he got into the wall or what happened, but he is going to be off the lead lap now. He was on the lead lap just prior to coming to pit road.
I'm looking right now, and Luis Nunez, he has gotten to his back bumper. He is ready. He is trying to take advantage, but I'm going to kind of air a little bit of caution here. Where, of course, you need to kind of conserve your tires here, because I'm seeing Nunez back up a little bit. Need to conserve your tires, but also pick your point of where you want to make this happen. If you pick the wrong point, you're going to lose about a half a second.
Charles Teed and David Cook trying to close it up here. They both got around Andrew Wood, dropping the 64 back to 6th, and they are running less than a second and a half behind the race leader. The Gary Corley incident, whatever it was, he came down pit road, made the left-hand turn to the garage, so Corley will be finishing 14th place here tonight. Right now, the only driver out of the event, the 13 drivers that remain, whether they be on the lead lap or not on the lead lap, but they still are continuing on here as Rayvon hits the line. 20 laps to go here at New Hampshire. And if I'm Rick Rayvon, you know, the scenario with having about 6-lap older tires, yeah, that's a detriment, but I think another detriment, you've got 2 drivers behind you, Nunez and Forsyth, who we've seen here this evening have been maybe 2 of the best on being able to run the inside, make a pass for position, and keep the momentum up off the corner.
I just noticed David Cook was, I guess, trying to attempt to pass, and Charles Teed just couldn't make it happen, almost clobbered the wall.
Looking to regroup here as he's about 2 car lengths off the back bumper of Teed for the 4th position. I was also noticing that Forsyth was appearing to maybe fall back to Charles Teed. He's now since gapped the 50 and continues to try and make his way up to Nunez for P2. For Nunez, obviously got to preserve the tires, but how much does aero come into play? Because I've been noticing him kind of try to run a half groove lower than Rick Rayvon here through the corners, trying to get clean air to that front wing.
Aero factors in a ton. In clean air, hey, your car handles completely differently, but once you get air on that front nose, it tightens the car up, makes it harder to drive, which is why you see Rick Rayvon, he's trying to go all the way down the lane, just block off a little of the air, but Craig Forsyth's getting, and just that kills off the run.
Forsyth gonna drive it towards the inside of Nunez. Couldn't get to the inside of him as Cook side by side with Charles Teed again for 4th place. He got alongside, he just couldn't get the momentum off of Ford down the straight.
It's one of those things where this is really where the New Hampshire hard to pass kind of comes in from, because you can tell there's a lot of speed here in this pack, and if they could battle, they would, but it's just so hard to pass, and aero and tires are so much of a factor where you have to kind of calculate where you want to make these moves.
So interesting when you look at where these drivers started this race. Rick Rayvon, the race leader, started from 3rd. Charles Teed, currently in P4, that's where he started, but the other 3 drivers up inside the top 5. Nunez started 8th, and Forsyth and Cook started outside the top 10. Forsyth in 11th and Cook in the 12th position. They all find themselves up here at the same place at the same time here with less than 15 to go.
Just looking back there, and you know, mad props to Charles Teed trying to make that recovery run all the way back up, now losing 4th to David Cook, but mad props for just regrouping, not letting that be the end of his day, almost into the wall, but not letting that be the end of his day and still battling back.
Really hard racing here for the 4th position on board with David Cook. Watch the hands down there on the lower portion of your screen as he tries to gather that thing up off of turn 2, try and keep the nose pointed straight and get that momentum off the corner. He can get alongside of Charles Teed. He just can't seem to be able to complete the pass. Teed has that preferred line on the top side when they exit. And now Teed trying to take a look there for 3rd place on Craig Forsyth.
Man, Luis Nunez just parks it so much in the middle of the corner, and that just opens up the door for Charles Teed to take advantage.
Gap between Forsyth and Rick Rayvon was 5 points coming into tonight. Rick over Craig. Craig has 2 victories, Rick has 1, and right now advantage to the former champion Rick Rayvon as he is showing the way here by about 2-3 car lengths over Luis Gonzalez Nunez. Forsyth right now hung back in that 3rd position. So Rick Rayvon might be able to do 2 things here tonight. Pick up his 2nd win of the season, which would tie him with Forsyth for most wins so far this year, but also open up that points gap heading into next week's off week.
That's the thing, you want that momentum going into the off week, so hey, it's something that you can say, oh yeah, I won last week, and then you go and you kind of party and have that fun week off, and when you come back, it's still in your mind of like, oh yeah, I won that race before we went on break. Let's kind of keep that momentum rolling.
That race in 2 weeks' time will be at Phoenix as the battle for third continues between Forsyth and Teed. Boy, Teed's able to drive it really low there into the corner. Tries to ride it up towards the left rear quarter panel of Craig Forsyth off the turn, but can't quite get there. And every failed attempt to get to the inside has brought David Cook closer. We're going to have a three-man fight for third place here.
Charles T is just trying so hard to get by Forsyth, but just can't complete the pass. But I'm seeing David Cook now be on the move.
And he is not going to be able to complete the pass there on Teed, who almost got up into the wall off of two.
But look at that.
Now is into the mix.
But that's what I'm telling you is you have to plan out when you're going to make these moves, because look at David Cook. He was side by side with Forsyth in third, and now he's almost fighting for fifth. That's how badly that happens.
You know what this reminds me an awful lot of? The Indianapolis 500 that we see at the end of the season for this series, where you try and make a pass. If you don't complete it, you've lost all that momentum, and there's drivers behind that still have the momentum, and they're just going to swallow you up. Obviously, this is in no way Indianapolis, but just the racing style. If you can't complete that pass and you lose that little bit of forward momentum, it's going to cost you.
And just
Nunez
you see the whole
closing.
snaking line. Nunez is going to have to try something, because right now his tires are getting even more worn out, and he's going to have to try and push. I mean, time's running out.
Boy, he had a great run off of two, had closed it right up to the back of Rick Ravon, but it looked like he had to lift a lot sooner going into turn three than Ravon did, and that's what lost him all that ground. The last time by here into turn three, they were literally nose to tail. It's now 3 car lengths. Pretty spaced out right now amongst the top 6. Now Teed to the inside of Forsyth again for third place. Not going to be able to get alongside again here off of turn 2.
Oh, Ravon!
Oh, Ravon! He's out! He could not make it on fuel!
That's the thing. That's why he was trying to push so hard.
Oh, wow!
But you got to think that's a huge hit in the points for him, because now you look at Craig Forsyth. He is now P2.
And Luis Gonzalez Nunez is the race leader. I remember last season we were talking about drivers that we expected to probably take a checkered flag. Nunez was in that conversation. He was so consistent every time we saw him. He's got one more mile to close out the deal for his first career win.
And you got to think here, Nunez is on the edge of his seat, but that's where you want to really be careful. You don't want to make any more mistakes. Just kind of bring it gently back to the line.
And Nunez, how about that? He is your winner here tonight at New Hampshire. 1 week removed from his first podium on the season. And for the first time, he is going to capture a Dark Horse Racing Series checkered flag.
And you know, he's celebrating because, I mean, he had the work for that one, because even not even factoring Rick Ravon dropping out, he had to get away from Craig Forsyth to make sure he had it in the bag.
Absolutely. So kind of making sure that you don't run over Rick Ravon if you knew he was not going to make it on fuel, but had to manage the gap for when you eventually were going to get the race lead. And this is going to be, I think, a very interesting post-race interview. As we talked with Nunez last week, he had a lot of confidence coming into tonight, and the celebration here in front of the New Hampshire fans on the front straightaway. This might be the longest burnout in Dark Horse Racing Series history, because I think this is going to go on for a while.
You got to think, I mean, at the beginning of the race, even before on lap 0 effectively, he ended up getting a little bit loose. He ended up hitting the side of Craig Forsyth, and going from that to winning the race, I mean, that is night and day.
Yeah, what was it about this race making everything full circle? We had the contact before between Wood and Ravon. They restarted first and second. A couple restarts later, you got Nunez and Forsyth finishing first and second when they made initial contact before we took the green. We talked about it. It's only prior to tonight. It's been on the schedule the last 2 seasons, but New Hampshire always seems to bring in storylines and have us leave with storylines. take a look at the finishing results from this evening's event before we talk with our podium finishers.
Props to Charles Deed for rallying back to a P3. Same thing for
Teed,
David Cook.
yeah, I mean, you look, well, Andrew Wood. I mean, there's three drivers right there inside of your top five that were involved in bringing out cautions or being involved in wrecks that brought out yellow flags in some way, shape, or form, and they all mounted great comebacks inside of the top five.
This is definitely not an easy race for any of them. Just the strategy that ended up playing into it.
So I'm not 100% certain what the bonus point payout is for laps led and most laps led. We know Rick Ravon led the most laps here tonight, but with Forsyth in second and Ravon in eighth, one would assume that Forsyth is going to take over the points lead with it only being a 5-point gap coming into tonight. The question is, though, what will the gap look like with the roles reversed of Forsyth in P1 and Ravon in P2? Yari Brubacher unfortunately had that spin on pit road. He was never able to get all the laps back that he lost to mount a comeback. He'll finish in ninth. AJ Hobson started on the pole position, and he's going to be bringing it home in 10th place. And then the rest of the drivers here end up finishing off of the lead lap. That is McMurray, Joe McAdory, Dylan McIntosh. They finished out the race. Corley brought it to pit road with about 20 some odd laps to go. He finished in 14th, and you see Matt Wagner credited for 15th, as Matt documented, never took the green flag here tonight. He was on track, was running some practice laps earlier on, but never gridded up when we started this evening's event.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, that is a huge hit to Matt Wagner and his championship standings. I mean, yes, look at Rick Ravon. He did finish P8 one lap down, but P8 one lap down is a lot better than P15 no laps ran.
It's a valid point, and again, as mentioned, Matt Wagner was one of only two drivers that had previously won in this series at New Hampshire, was actually going to be the only active driver that was a previous winner, as he had taken the checkered flag last season. Robert Maleska III was the other driver back in Season 4. But let's see if we can talk with some of our podium finishers here tonight, each one of them having their own little adventure, and let's see if we can kick things off with the guy that brought it home P3 here this evening. I believe, I'll have to double check on this as we're talking with him, but I believe it's his first podium of the season. Let's see if we can talk with Charles Teed.
Indeed, indeed.
Hey, Charles, it's Matt and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I forgot what it's like to talk to you guys. I don't know how to do this.
Oh man, I'll tell you what though, certainly know how to drive a race car, because you were wheeling that thing out there today, especially in that last run. A great battle with Forsyth for what was then third, eventually ended up being a battle for second place, but had to mount a couple of cutbacks there as well. We saw you kind of fall towards the back on older tires near the beginning of this race. You had that spin that brought out a caution, had to work your way back to the front again. So I think if there's a car out there that gets most positions gained the entire race, it might be that 50 car.
Yeah, it was good. I really like this track, so I think it's a decided advantage for me. I like it, but I gave up 2 spots. I was not as good on the first couple laps of a start until I would go run the top with them, and I much prefer to come off on the bottom because you can you can get more of a run as the tires go away. But Craig got me very early in the race, he and Haisong, and I was never able to get Craig back because Craig just does not make mistakes. So he and Nunez got me in probably about the 40 lap mark, and yeah, I spun coming out of the pits trying to have a better stop than these guys that are all really good. It was fun. I'm happy with P3 on this one.
So Charles, nice to talk to you in an
You as
interview
well, Matt.
in an interview format. But I have to ask, I'm gonna ignore the fact that you went from pit limiter, the spin on the exit of pit road.
Yeah.
But looking ahead, obviously we've got the off week coming up, nice vacation. But look ahead to Phoenix, and we're looking ahead to the Milwaukee Mile. This track, while a lot different than the Milwaukee Mile and Phoenix, does have some similarities. Can you take anything from this race onwards?
So it's funny you would think so because I hate Phoenix with all that I am, and I have a bachelor party, so I'll miss that race. Yes, I'm not. Phoenix is not one, but yes, Milwaukee for sure. It's a track where you have to really get in a rhythm, just like here, and get in a run. And these guys, I mean, Rick is so unbelievably fast that he can pass someone like him, DeGroot, Craig are just so unbelievably fast. And then Wood, I mean, I am definitely tier 3 now around running with all these guys, but it's fun every now and then to go. And tonight we're pretty quick.
We talked about the different ways that this racetrack was going to affect you guys, and one of the things we touched on was the low degrees of banking in the corner, making these cars kind of slip and slide around, especially on corner exit. At the same time, that low amount of banking going into the corner, heating up that right front tire. So we saw a lot of drivers be really tight off the corner. We also saw a lot of drivers kind of squirrely off the corner. Which end of the race car were you most concerned about here tonight?
Well, if I burned the tires up too much early by turning in too soon at the end of the run, I did that the very first run that you guys saw. But no, I much prefer it loose off a little bit where you can just feather the throttle. And I think that's why it plays to me as runs would go on. Like High Song was really, really fast early in a run and would walk away to a second and a half on me. And then as the run would go on and I got more comfortable with the car on the bottom, I could reel them back in because I think they were getting a nasty push off of 4 a couple of times every 3 or 4 laps. And that just allowed me to close right back up. But man, it's really, really hard to pass.
Well, your first podium of the season, really strong performance here tonight and working your way back up to the front after losing track position a couple of occasions. Congratulations on a solid performance here tonight, Charles. And now we'll give you the opportunity to thank some sponsors and do some shout-outs.
Well, I want to thank Eric Peterson for helping to run this league with Dark Horse. Really, really appreciate that. Jim Herrick has done a ton for us as well with his company, so I want to thank Jim. But most importantly, I want to for Jim Brooks, who runs with us. He runs the Area 51 League, and he's battling cancer and not able to race with us tonight. So, Jim, this little shitty P3 that I threw up there was for you, bud. So keep fighting and get better, man.
Charles T, third place finisher here tonight at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway, the Magic Mile. Congratulations, Charles. Enjoy the off week, and yeah, we'll see you at the Milwaukee Mile in a couple of weeks.
Yes, sir. Thank you, boys. Thank you for broadcasting.
Absolutely. Let's see if now we can get a hold of the guy that brings it home, P2. He also has taken over the points lead heading into Phoenix in 2 weeks' time. It will be 10 points, the difference between himself and Rick Ravon. Let's talk with tonight's runner-up, Craig Forsyth. Hey, Craig, Matt and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Hey, guys. How you doing tonight?
Man, we've talked to you in Victory Lane the last 2 weeks. So close to making it 3 in a row here this evening. What little more did you need to be able to get up there and get the 14? Because, we were actually trying to crunch the numbers. We weren't sure if Rick was going to be able to make it on fuel or not. Eventually, a battle for second turns into a battle for the race lead. But it looked like when we were observing you guys on the long run, you and the 14 seemed to be the 2 drivers that could really make the passes on that bottom line, keep the momentum going, and complete the passes. So, did you have anything for Nunez?
I don't think I did. I mean, once I could get underneath someone and I could just keep continuous lap after lap pressure, you could eventually get just enough of a mistake out of them that, you could sort of weasel your way ahead, I guess is the best. This is a really hard track to pass. It's not the funnest track for me, that's for sure. But I knew that Rick couldn't make it just because I was originally on Rick's fuel strategy, and during I think it was 2 cautions before the end, that's when I took the opportunity to get off of it because I knew, based on my calculations, I was going to be about 6 laps short, and so Rick was able to stretch it farther than I expected, but still 2 laps short. But so I knew that he was out there waiting for a caution that didn't come. So I knew that the race, the battle was against LGN, and he's a hard competitor, and he was able to take advantage of a previous pass attempt. I think I was trying to pass AJ and got bottled up, and he took perfect opportunity to get past. So the only thing I need to talk to him about is deciding to scrape up my paint on the before the green flag happened. That was humorous. Got away with it though.
I won't mention that one too much. Maybe I'll talk to him about it. But I have to ask, since we're looking at the points battle, points have been updated. You currently have a 10-point gap on Ravon.
Oh wow.
Do you? I mean, is that a sizable gap for you? I mean, are you comfortable with having that gap, or is it just kind of one of those race to race kind of things where
it's got to be a race to race thing for me? I'm not one. I'm not one of those guys that's an alien that can night in night out always be the top. So I've got to take advantage of any of the races I can where, I have good races. I didn't expect to have, as I said, I didn't expect to have a good race here. So that was a happy surprise, because this is not normally a track I'm very good at, but I've got the feet back up and working again. So trying out the new 4D racewear boots, or I guess they're gloves for our feet, I should say. And I just got to take a race at a time. That's how I generally approach everything. It's usually works out for me. Sometimes it works out terribly, because I'll have a couple terrible races where it's the one race that I raced too hard and could have just taken it easy. But that was a tiring race. I hope everyone else you've talked to has said. I hope Charles said it was tiring, or I'm just getting old.
Now, Craig, we ended up coming into tonight not seeing you start any further back than 7th position. You talk about how difficult it is to pass here. You rolled off the grid from P12. You and a number of other drivers actually electing not to put down a lap time in qualifying. So what led to that decision?
I tried to put down a lap in qualifying, but I decided that the wall was really, really tasty. And botched my first lap and couldn't get out with enough time to do the second lap. So that was not intentional, that's for sure.
Hey, look, if you're going to hit the wall, do it in qualifying, don't do it in the race. And you were able to keep your car off the wall the entirety of this race. So bringing it home P2, solid outing. I mean, some great numbers here in the last 3 weeks. A win, and a second place finish. Certainly looking like a lot of momentum on your side. It'll be interesting to see if that continues on 2 weeks' time when we get to the Phoenix Raceway. But Craig, congratulations on another great performance here tonight, and we'll give you the opportunity to thank some sponsors and do some shout-outs.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I got to thank Jim over at 4D Racewear. We're slowly getting the racing gloves for your feet tested and ready, and the gloves are up and ready. So good sponsor for the league and good sponsor for the car. I think I say that too often. I mean, everyone over in Dark Horse, it's a good bunch of guys, and you guys over at FRN and ESTV and all the sponsors that keep the league going, and I mean the fans that watch on YouTube and on the ESTV thing. I mean, I hope we put on a good enough show that everyone keeps coming back every week.
Craig Forsyth, your runner-up finisher here tonight at New Hampshire. Congratulations, Craig, once again on the great performance, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time at Phoenix. Enjoy your off week.
You betcha, Seth. Have a good night.
And let's now go down to Victory Lane. The celebration, I'm sure, is still going on. Let's see if we can talk with Luis Gonzalez Nunez. Hey, Luis, it's Matt and Seth up here in the FRN booth. You got us?
I got you.
Well, my goodness. I mean, we talked with you last week, Luis, when you got your first podium of the season. We asked you about the momentum and the confidence. You said you had a lot of it coming into tonight. Has it sunk in yet? You are a winner here in the Dark Horse Racing Series?
First of all, I didn't expect to win today. I start cold on the middle I started super cold today. I didn't know how to qualify. I didn't know how to work with the car. I start to actually I hit a little bit to Craig in the first start, and after that I don't know why the brake bias is too back, and I hit the wall. So I start to the back. I saw I faster than the leader. I saw the timing. So, well, I started working in progress, and was a super tough race, but we did it. So finally, I didn't expect to win today. I thought maybe I'm gonna get the third position. When I approached to Andrew, and the before last pit stop, and I didn't realize to catch too fast. So I'm really happy for the performance today.
Now, Luis, I do have to ask.
Yes.
Coming from the beginning of the race to lap 0, where you gave Forsyth just a little bit of a bump, to middle of the race where you had speed, but realistically the car was just not stable, to the end of the race where you actually ended up winning it. I mean, what was the mindset and just being able to rally back and not just kind of throwing in the towel?
Well, I really thought about that. I really thought about maybe the car is gonna be a little bit bad, but I really trust a lot how the line last season. Sorry, I was at first in the same circuit and the same oval. Sorry, and I learned my mistake at that time when I tried to pass Eric. Was a lap down. I was first with 5 seconds behind the second place. So I said, okay, this time it's gonna be calm down, and if I feel something wrong in the car, I gonna slow down. But it wasn't, so that's why I feel so confident. And what I said, I hit a little bit, Craig. I make a repair. Was 5 seconds, and I said, okay, let's do it slow. And was the car started to tasting at the moment. I tasted in each lap. I tasted how far in the inside can go, and I saw the car is going inside a lot. So I go to the extremely hard to going down, and I did it. So there's the car was good in the half a race, and especially in the last one. So in the last 16. So I know if you have a clear air, the car is gonna be more faster. That's why when Rick came in, I left Craig for what 0.7 or 8 in half a lap. So that's because I know how's the limit of the car. So I'm really happy for the performance. Really.
So it's sounding like you and the rest of the field, you had no indication that Rick Ravon was not going to be able to make it on fuel. Is that correct?
In my calculation, I really surprised when I came in and everybody came in on the same time and yellow flag is out on the last yellow. I saw Rick with 10 laps more than us. So I saw, well, this is weird. And I start to take my cell phone. I start to make the calculation. I said, this guy is 3 laps. I think 3 laps short to the end. So actually, Rick Raven congrat me. He said I start to use the clutch to try to go to the end, and I'm really surprised how fast is that guy. So because thinking about it, he used the clutch on the middle on the back straight, and it's still fast. So that's why he said you catch me many times, but in that moment I start to use the throttle, full throttle in some moment, and some moment I use the clutch. So what you said, I really know, but the point is, it's not my battle with Rick. It's the battle with Craig. The Craig is so strong. It's really fast. So, and I tried to put the car. I tried to throw the dirty air to him, and I did it good. But in some point, it's like I know he can pass me on the bottom, and he tried. But I know if you go on the top, it's gonna be impossible. So really happy. So my worry really was with Craig, not with Raven, because I knew it is have a 3 laps short or 4 laps short or something like that.
Well, we say that if you're going to be able to find victory lane, do it early on in the season when the points are all close together. With the victory tonight, you jump up 6 spots in the standings. You're going to be in the top 5 in points when we get to Phoenix in 2 weeks' time. Congratulations on a job well done here tonight. Your first career victory in this series. And now we're going to hand the microphone over and let you do some victory lane thank you sponsors and shout outs.
First of all, I'm gonna say thank you for all of them. I'm gonna say sorry for the guys involved in the crack without yellow flag before Eric hit the wall. I don't have the name now, but I'm gonna apologize later. I really apologize for one of them. I feel bad. And second, I'm gonna say thank you to Team Racing 24/7 for support me.
Luis Gonzalez Nunez, he's got a lot of momentum, got a podium finish last week at Kentucky. He follows it up with a victory here tonight at the Magic Mile. Congratulations, Luis. Go and enjoy this victory, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time.
Thank you so much, guys, and appreciate it for your time.
So Luis Gonzalez Nunez, as the celebration continues for him, his first career win here in the Dark Horse Racing Series. We talk about it, Matt. New Hampshire, the last couple of seasons, it has definitely played its part into the storylines heading down the remainder of the season. And did we maybe hear tonight, just based on what we've seen in the last couple of weeks, did we see a new name possibly creep into the title picture when we get to Indianapolis at the end of the season?
Realistically, I think yes. I think right now the entire playing field's open. Obviously, we have our favorites. We have Ravon, we have Forsyth. Those guys kind of pop up immediately as guys to be worried about. But obviously, Nunez, Teed, those guys that we haven't really dove into that much, they are still fast and they can easily just really come out here and just surprise all of us.
I'll tell you the one thing that in that interview that kind of stood out to me. Nunez said he came into this race cold. He hadn't really been able to know what the car was capable of doing here, and he was able to learn on the fly as the race went on, ends up picking up this victory. He's not all that familiar with the old configuration of Phoenix that we're going to in 2 weeks' time. He's kind of going to be going in cold again, so Field might want to be a little bit worried.
That's the thing where certain of these guys, and it's the strangest things, they can come to these racetracks and do 0 laps of practice, and about halfway through the race there'll be a, oh hey, I figured it out moment, and they'll just turn on another gear and they'll just pass you all. And then certain guys, they have to come in, they have to do 2-3 hours of practice just to get this track down, and that's how they do best. Everyone works differently, and that's a really big thing.
Again, as mentioned, we've had ourselves a change for the points lead. Craig Forsyth will be heading into our off week as the new points leader, 10 points in hand over Rick Ravon. David Cook currently sits in third. He's going to be 41 points back, 48 points back in fourth, Jeff Heisong, and Luis Gonzalez Nunez now pops up into the top 5 in fifth. He will be a total of 53 points out. These drivers will have their off week, and we'll see them back on track at Phoenix International in 2 weeks' time. You brought up the question there to Charles about going to Phoenix and also going to the Milwaukee Mile, a couple of low-banked racetrack, much like New Hampshire. Would there be some similarities? Be interesting to see if some of those guys that had the good performances here tonight, if they'll be able to follow it up, or is there going to be that slight bit of difference in the configuration that bring a couple of different names up to the forefront that we saw either not up at the front tonight or maybe have some struggles this evening?
Realistically, going forward, the biggest thing in my mind is if you're someone like Ravon or if you're someone like Forsyth or even Wagner in this case, your main goal is maintain points. And obviously with Forsyth, the idea is we need to continue gaining points. We always need to stay ahead of Ravon. By Ravon, he needs to take a few more risks because, hey, I mean, look at this, where Rick has 1 win and effectively 2 top 5s. And then looking at, my apologies, then looking at, name eludes me at the moment. Looking at Forsyth has won 2 of the last 3 events and has finished top 2 in all 3 of those events. And honestly, at Pocono, he probably would have finished top 2 as well. So realistically, he is someone I'm worried about. That's someone I need to really prep against.
Well, they call this place the Magic Mile, and there was magic in the air for one Luis Gonzalez Nunez. His first career win happens tonight in the Dark Horse Racing Series presented by Troy Lee Designs. We appreciate everybody that tuned in tonight on YouTube and ESTV. Hope you guys enjoyed our coverage. Again, next week, these drivers will be off. We will be back on September 11th to continue on the season at Phoenix. Green flag will be at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Matt, it's been another thriller here tonight at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. It's been a great one here this evening, the entirety of the race. Long green flag runs, some untimely cautions that kind of mix things up, and an exciting finish at the end. Appreciate you joining me in the booth.
As always.
Once again, thanks to everybody that tuned in. We'll see you guys as we got a lot on tap here this week as far as race coverage on the Flat Out Racing Network. For Matthew Rodriguez, I'm Seth Cole. Thanks for joining us here tonight at New Hampshire Motor Speedway as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of FRN, the Flat Out Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flat Out Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flat Out Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flat Out Racing Network would like to thank you for your